15 firefighters in McDonald's, and he's parked outside, and they've literally just come from a fight, and they're just all starving, and it was like midnight, and then 3 of them recognised me, and then we had a group photo, and then I bought them all McDonald's. I'm just saying, like, I love doing things like that because they're so easy to do. Obviously, there's the Sheeran, Adele, Coldplay level where it's just like they do an album, they do 100 stadium gigs, headline a load of festivals, and then they have 2 or 3 years off.
Yeah.
So there's that cycle, and then there's the other cycle, maybe a bit underneath that, the smaller bands, like not as big pop stars, where they might do album, arena tour, 2-3 years off. Whereas I'm just like album festivals, tour, album festivals. So I'm not really a cyclical artist.
By the way, fucking let's go.
All these people have kids or mortgages to pay or rent to pay and mouths to feed. So if I don't work, there's about 10 other people who are severely affected as a direct result of me not working. Like my mum and dad, like the amount of love and care they gave to me, off the charts, and the amount of time and energy my dad invested into not only working like all day and every day he could to provide for the family, but then spending all weekend doing DIY on the house, himself, but then always finding time to play with me and my sister and give us so much attention, and that helped us, our creativity and our mindset as well.
Together we have clarity, direction, and success way beyond what we ever previously thought possible. Here's your host, Frankie Lee.
Welcome back to the Frankie Lee podcast. And do you know what, right? If you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can see we have changed the game in podcasting because we are in a new location, right? And this new location, I'm with no other. And do you know what? Any introduction I do for this geezer is going to be fucking understated. So I'm just going to introduce the main man. Example, mate. Hello. Welcome to the podcast, Elliot.
Elliot. I'm Example. The moment you step into my house, you can call me Elliot,
Big
Eli,
L, Big L,
Elio. That's my cat tower there in the background.
Yeah. We left that in there because we thought, you know what, there'll be a few pussies watching, so we've left it there for you.
It's not very nice.
But no, I'm joking. I'm only joking. But mate, welcome to the fucking podcast. How good? We got it done. We got it done. Yeah. Well, we were trying to do this before I went to the UK, and I just kept thinking it's going to be more interesting to get back from the UK and talk about my trip to the UK. Yeah.
Especially because whilst I was in the UK, I did 5 podcasts in 6 weeks. They've all come out now.
Yeah.
And then, but I just thought to give you the best.
Yeah. But let me tell you, they're not going to be as good as this fucking podcast. So we ain't worried, are we? We ain't worried. But I reckon, mate, there's been a lot going on in your life, right? Because for 2 years, obviously through all this shit, which a lot of people won't understand about you, is that you weren't able to work, right? And obviously earn income the way that you earned income before. And obviously that's something that people assume people in your position it's just easy, like you can just kind of thing. But I suppose having that much time out of working must have took its toll, innit?
I say the most important thing to think about first and foremost is there's a lot of people who rely on me. So that's not just I'm not talking my wife and kids. I mean, my wife obviously has her own stuff that she does, but I've got my manager, and I've got my DJ.
Yeah.
And my lighting guys and my sound guys and my booking agents, and all these people have kids or mortgages to pay or rent to pay and mouths to feed. So if I don't work, there's about 10 other people who are severely affected as a direct result of me not working.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole industry in general, so there's all I think that what people forget is this industry is entertainment in general. It's the whole world has to be open and function, and then it's all about when it comes to music or theatre or drama or even the ballet. You know what I mean? It's like it's all about human beings coming together to celebrate and to enjoy and to laugh and to cry
and to have a moment
and that is why it's one of the most important industries in the world in terms of keeping people sane and feeling like human beings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we can't go to festivals and watch people perform and, you know, dance and get drunk with our friends and hug each other and fall in love with people and meet new people.
Fall in love with people that we shouldn't fall in love with.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. People fall in love for a night.
Yeah. I fell in love for many nights in Ibiza, bruv.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But you don't even take drugs and alcohol, so...
No, but I took Jack 3D.
Okay, so you're on more like a real love. Everyone else is on fake love. Yeah. No, it's been tough. And whilst, you know, it was probably last year I lost maybe 50 gigs. And whilst that doesn't mean that I can't, you know, still have a decent lifestyle day to day, it actually allowed me to spend more time with my wife and kids than ever before.
Yeah, beautiful.
And write 2 albums. And, you know, spending a lot more time focusing on my general health and fitness, mentally and physically and emotionally. It was kind of good for me, but not great for anyone who worked with me or for me.
Yeah, I just wanted people to really understand of how many people are in a team when you're an artist, because not a lot of people understand that, bro. They all think it's just like you, and obviously if you can't work, you can't provide for your wife and kids, so to speak. But they all expect you to have like a load of cash in the bank and all rah rah rah. But it's everyone else that gets affected down the chain.
Well, yeah, like my UK tour in 2019, no, start of 2020, so last February before the whole lockdown COVID thing. I was on a tour bus with 14 people. You only see 2 on stage, but there was 14 on the tour bus. So there's all those people who, you know, if people like me don't tour and work, then they don't earn. Yeah,
and mate, and that is something that the people need to understand. Like just understand that, because I see people say things like when you're flying over to the UK, right, to do this tour, right?
It's just happened,
yeah. People were pinging you, going, "Oh, fucking hell, it's all right for you getting to fucking leave the country and all this."
Well, yeah,
stuff.
people get annoyed because I got exemption.
Yeah,
and I'm like, but you're asking for exemption to go back and meet your niece, you know, in Windsor, and some other fella, you know, who's having a go at me saying, "Why can't I get exemption? You know, my granddad passed and I couldn't go to the funeral." I'm just like, look, mate, we've all lost people during this. Like my uncle died during this COVID thing, and me, my dad, mum, my sister, none of us could fly back to the UK for his funeral. So I get it when people are a bit annoyed, but what I would say is, I'm like, first and foremost, you're stuck in Australia. Not the worst place to be stuck.
Yeah, if you're going to be stuck anywhere, be stuck here.
Be stuck in Australia or New Zealand, probably, where you've at least got, you know, the great outdoors, you've got the weather, you've got, you know, the mountains, the beaches, the parks, you know, all the stuff that kind of makes you, when you're in a lockdown, you're allowed an hour out, 2 hours out every day to exercise. The best places in the world you can probably be stuck would be in Australia or New Zealand or parts of Canada, you know, the great outdoors.
This is what I like people to understand, is how grateful we should be that we live in, like, you know, even in the UK, even listening to this in the UK right now or America, it's like we're so fucking lucky with everything that we've got going on. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, and everyone gets so in their head with it being shit and hating on other people.
But the government over here have handled it in a weird way. You know, it's kind of, they've done the opposite to the rest of the world. I think Australia were just like, they didn't really listen or follow to what the rest of the world were doing, because the rest of the world looked from afar like it was an absolute mess. I think, you know, we were looking at the UK and probably speaking to all our friends and family in the UK or America and going, these people haven't left their house or their apartment or whatever for, you know, a year.
X amount of time.
And they're going mental. And, you know, people are getting divorced and people are committing suicide and people start to hate their kids and people's kids start to hate their parents and people lose their jobs and people lose their minds and people either go one or two ways. They either get that fitter and sober than they've ever been.
Especially in England, bro. Especially.
Yeah, or they put on weight and drink more and do more drugs than ever before, which is kind of like, there's the two different ways human beings can go in this. I don't think anyone really just sort of leveled out. Everyone went one or the other.
No one stays the same. It's like you went massively into health. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you went inward on yourself. And I suppose if most people did that, they'd come out of this a lot better. But some people obviously coming out worse, and I feel for a lot of those people too. Like,
totally. But it's like, we were here in Australia, like, they didn't think about the vaccine for so long here. I think they were just like, you know, it's still going to take another year or two, or maybe 5 or 10 years to really see what it is that we've put in ourselves. Well, in my case anyway.
Yeah.
But we're just, it's a mad one, because it's like I wasn't allowed to travel unless I got the vaccine. Personally, I would have liked to have had a bit more research and results on the...
Oh, so you actually wanted that clarity in yourself with that?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was like, look, I've had vaccines as a baby, but like we were discussing off camera beforehand, I think it did feel pretty rushed, but it also was the first time every top scientist in the world came together to work for a collective goal. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of the world before, because it's always been, Americans, Russians, Chinese, everyone spying on one another and not wanting to share scientific advancements. But because the whole world economy was kind of like stunted and in its growth and in the way it could operate normally, they had to come together to get everything back open again. Just, I think, for the sake of greediness and trade, they all said, let's get, import, export. Let's get back together and work together for the first time on them doing this vaccine. So it's, I kind of was just like, I even had to sort of beg for it in Australia, because I wasn't meant to get it until, like, say, September now.
Oh, so you didn't even qualify at the time for this
I didn't
vaccine.
even qualify it, and that's how far Australia was behind. So everyone I knew back in the UK had got it in maybe April, May, June, and I was kind of like begging for it off any way I could for a GP or whatever, so because I needed it in order to get out of the country, in order to get into the UK, so I could go and fulfill all my contracts and festivals.
And how does it work in regards?
So it's just weird to think the UK, everyone is just queuing up for it and being given it, and Australia is just like, a few people in their 60s and 70s had it.
Yeah.
But at 39, I wasn't even.
You weren't even eligible on the list. But how does it work in regards to contracts and fulfilling contracts? I mean, do you lose, as an artist, do you lose all the money if you can't get to the show to do the contract? You literally lose everything.
Yeah.
So there's no 20% up front or this, that, and the other. How does
well,
it work?
Like they might give you 50% of your gig up front, but if you can't make that because you're sick or you've missed a flight or you can't even get out the country, you give back your deposit. So
like every time you take like a 50% up front on a gig, you have to put that in like another account to make sure that you turn up for that gig, basically.
Yeah.
Otherwise you could fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I suppose a lot of artists in the past have fallen foul of that kind of ruling, are they?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if someone pays you for a gig and then they have to cancel, then you usually can keep the fee.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's quite weird, that one. I mean, like, say if you've been offered 2 gigs on the same day, and you choose one, and you're missing out on the fee of the other one. It might be slightly higher, it might be slightly lower, it might be the same. But you're choosing this other gig. If that gig then cancels on me, I'm in two minds. I'm like, okay, I feel sorry for them that they've had to cancel for whatever reason. I should probably give back the deposit. But then the other part of me is just like, well, no, I've missed out on other work to accept your one. And then you're also like, because I'm self-employed in a way, my career and everything I do and the people who work for me all lives and dies on whether a festival actually goes ahead or not. And I think what happened last year was like I had 20 bookings in the UK. They all got cancelled, but then like 10 got carried over to this summer. So
you keep the fees for the 10? You
keep the fees, but then you obviously, you're missing out on a whole summer of festival fees anyway, because it's almost like you're getting paid up front for the following year. So basically what I'm saying is it's been a very weird time in the music, entertainment, live music industry. Like it's still the mad thing now as well, as my agents told me, that because in any one year, maybe say he's got 200 acts on his books, there's actually only 60 or 70 of them are available for bookings and for touring, because the rest are having a year out or relaxing, or they're what's called not in cycle.
Yeah, because obviously you guys have a rest for a year where you go away, write another album.
Yeah, exactly.
Do all this.
I'm sort of person, I'll do an album a year or maybe 40, 50 gigs every year, but that's just how I like to roll. Whereas a lot of artists might do, obviously there's the Sheeran, Adele, Coldplay level where it's just like they do an album, they do 100 stadium gigs, headline a load of festivals, and then they have 2 or 3 years off. Yeah. So there's that cycle. And then there's the other cycle, maybe a bit underneath that, the smaller bands, like not as big pop stars, where they might do album, arena tour, 2-3 years off. Whereas I'm just like album, festivals, tour, album, festivals. So I'm not really a cyclical artist. But my agent said that because of coronavirus, all of his acts from the UK, America, everywhere, everyone's come back to him and just said,
book us out.
Book us out. Book us whatever the hell you can, because they've all missed being on stage, and a lot of people have missed out on income, and a lot of people just want to be there again. So now, the typical festival slot, you'd have 3 or 4 acts, 5 or 6 acts going for the same spot. So I might be vying for headline in the dance tent or second on the main stage.
Yeah.
And there's usually maybe 3 or 4 other acts in competition for my spot, and then my agent has to convince them that
you're the best for that show. Yeah.
Or the agent just comes, the booker comes straight to my agent and says, "We want example. We love his new single. We saw footage of his gig at such and such at Creamfields. We want him."
Yeah.
Whereas now, because everybody's touring, and all the Americans are coming into the UK more than ever before, and vice versa. All the UK acts are going to America because they're kind of the 2 most open places in the world for live music at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you look on your Instagram and you see live festival footage, it's pretty much just America and the UK, America, UK, America, UK.
Yeah.
Very rarely Australia. Not much going on in Asia still. So now there's maybe 10 or 15 acts. This fly needs to...
Fuck off.
There's now 10 or 15 acts vying for that slot.
Mate.
So then you have to take you might have to take a little cut on your fees.
And when you say a little haircut, right, on the fees, right, how much of a haircut are we talking in percentage terms?
I don't know. I don't know.
Fucking too much.
I don't want to say too much in case any bookers see this and think they can get me for too cheap.
Yeah.
My agent basically said 2022 is obviously going to be a hangover from this year still. So he reckons that the industry won't be the same as it was before coronavirus until 2023. So even though next year I've got a UK tour in January, February, I'll probably do 20 gigs in the summer. I'll probably be doing 15, 20 shows in Australia, New Zealand, hopefully, if things open up. Like, for instance, I'm playing Sydney in January, and that show's been postponed 4 times, and it's finally happening January the 8th. So the crazy thing now is just like we've got to wait till 2023 to potentially, and I'm not just talking about me, artists in general, to be getting the fees that they deserve, the slots that they deserve, and for it all to kind of even itself out.
Yeah, and the fees are justified because at the end of the day, like what you just said there, you guys go away for a year to write an album. In that year, you're only earning money from your streams and from the stuff that you've already got in the world. So it's not like you're doing the tours and earning the big clips and the stadium tours.
There's there might be the best year for me was like 2014, 2015 when I did 120 odd gigs and I was headlining festivals and I was playing arenas. And I'd say now where I'm at, I'm probably like 40-50% of that, in terms of how many gigs I'm doing and my earnings. But then a year like last year with no gigs, you're probably earning 10% of what you'd usually earn. As I said, people go, "Oh, but you got your nice house, and you could probably retire." I'm like, "Well, I've got a nice house, but I've worked hard for it, so I deserve it." And secondly, I can't retire yet. I probably still need to work for another 10 years in order to retire. It's not because people never. I think people see artists on big stages, and occasionally they see them, in some nice clothes in a photo shoot.
Yeah.
Or a nice watch that they've been lent for something.
Or a nice Bodeskins leather jacket.
Or I suppose it's just arrived today. No, but it's not always what you see. Like a lot of times when you're seeing artists in photo shoots on private jets, there's just private jets sat on the runway and they're just going up and using it for a photo shoot. They're not the plane's not taking off.
What, like the Instagrammers do that?
Yeah.
So the artists do that too?
A lot of artists do that, yeah.
Fucking hell.
I'm not going to name names, but not really in the dance world, but in the hip hop world, a lot of rappers.
A lot of stunting.
A lot of people, being lent watches, being lent clothes, being, borrowing a private jet.
Taking advances as well. There's a lot of people in your industry that take advances. They might get advanced in like a few $1 million.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand is that when you get advanced that money, that comes out of your sales when you sell the thing.
So when say that you're a rapper and you in the UK, and there's been a few recently who've signed for like 2 million, 3 million.
Yeah.
Actually, what that is, that might be 3 million over 4 albums. So album 1, you only get, I say only, you might get £400,000. You get £200,000 on signing, £200,000 on the album being released. That's completely recoupable. So you won't earn any money off your streaming, from your Spotify and Apple until you've recouped that 200 grand. So you've probably, you've got to do 50 million streams before you're even earning again. And then if they're happy with you, you can then advance for your second album, which might be 500-600 grand.
Yeah.
So, and that's maybe another 2 years down the line. So when they say it's worth they've signed a £3 million deal, it's maybe 200 grand and 400 grand and 600 grand and 800 grand. But that's even if you get to album 4.
And that's even if you hit the numbers that they're projecting you to hit.
Of course, but then you've also got to remember your manager's taking 20%. So say someone was going to earn 3 million from record deals over 4 years, straight away their manager's taking 600 grand from 3 mil. And
he's managing more than one artist, obviously.
Yeah, so from that you've got 2.4 million. And then you're paying tax on that.
Yeah.
As well, which in the UK is 50%. So
fucking hell.
So the way these things are presented, and then if you remember, so say there's that 2.4 mil. That's 2.4 mil, maybe over 4 or 5 years, which doesn't sound as amazing as just having a lump sum of 2.4 mil. 2.4 mil, 50% tax, actually 1.2 million. 1.2 million over 5 years.
It's not a lot of money, man.
It's like 250 grand a year, £250,000 a year. Okay, there'll be a lot of people listening to that going, I'll be happy with 250 grand a year, but what about when every time you see them post on they've got a new Gucci tracksuit on? Now Gucci tracksuits cost £1,500, $2,000.
Yeah, because you got to look a certain way at certain echelons of your career, haven't you?
But you not look at some of these Instagrammers and you got right. I mean, I honestly don't know how many of them actually have this money and how many of them are lent the clothes and then they're sent back, or they're gifted them. I don't know, but some of these people that say they post 2 or 3 times a day on Instagram, 365 days in a year, even assuming that 100 of their selfie pictures, they're either wearing Christian Dior, Louis Vuitton, Off-White or Gucci in every photo, you can assume every outfit is worth $1,000, $1,500. Let's just say that every outfit a day with their Balenciaga trainers and their Gucci tracksuit, let's just say that's £1,000 for every picture. If they do a picture a day, that's £365,000 a year just on clothes. To spend £365,000 a year on clothes, you've actually probably got to earn about $3 million a year. If 10% of your earnings after you've paid tax and paid your management and your agent and your DJ and your visuals guy and your stylist and all these things and your jewellery and your car that you're leasing because you probably don't own it. What I'm saying is people are projecting lifestyles, influencers and rappers mainly. I don't think you see much with DJs, and that's not to try and defend myself. I'm not a DJ. I'm a bit of an anomaly because I rap and sing and make electronic music, but it's just the main reason it concerns me is just because there's all these kids
that look up to that, and then they're going out and spending a month's wages on one tracksuit, and then they're going to get to 25, 30 years old with a load of tracksuits to show and a load of Off-White trainers. I know, and what you just said there hits so fucking hard, because at the end of the day, everything you've said there, none of that shit matters.
No, of course it doesn't.
Like it's like you're.
Because I'm telling you that now, like not every, like you see my house, I'm proud of my house, but not everyone needs to strive for a big house. Some people don't ever want to own a house, and that's fine. Some people might be happy just going through life renting and having the option to move to new places all the time.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to live in Australia and wanted to own my house, and that's what I want from my wife and my kids. I drive a Volkswagen Touareg. I've been silly in the past and had Lamborghinis and Ferraris and McLarens and Porsches, but in most of those cases, I made money on them when I sold them.
Yeah.
I just think, so I'm not into watches. I'm into the nice clothes, but I get gifted some nice bits. But I'm just as happy going out and to Kmart and buying a T-shirt as I am occasionally spending money on an Off-White denim jacket. But it's not like every time you post on my picture, I'm wearing a brand new £1,000 outfit. Yeah. Because what I'm saying is, I know for a fact that I'm doing better business-wise than and career-wise than most of these people you see on Instagram.
Yeah, especially in Australia as well.
No, it's not even that. You'd think. I just wish people were more honest and open with what they're actually earning and actually passing on advice to people rather than just going. There's people there just with stacks of £20 notes.
It's cheap though,
cheap, man.
Because the more you show, like the more you show, it just creates distance between you and the people that you're meant to be empowering. Because at the end of the day, right, these people that probably follow you, like when I just left school, and then I was doing my apprenticeship. When I was working a job in a factory, I was listening to your stuff in the factory, working as an engineer, bro, when I was like 16, 17 years old. And then I went to do my carpentry apprenticeship and I was listening to you on site, right? And now I'm sat in your house doing a podcast with you, right? But I don't feel at any time that you've stunted on me through that time. I've never had no experience where you've stunted on me.
Yeah, but not everyone needs to be like, and also you got to remember, like, there is an element of hip hop which has always been about flossing and showing off, and
yeah.
I mean, it's not where it started. Where it started, it was all about, just telling stories. Hip hop was always about storytelling and about, good times.
Yeah.
But hip hop's obviously evolved into rap, and rap's evolved into trap and into drill, and it's almost like a completely different genre. And I get there's a lot of lyrics which are purely just about how much money they're making, whether that's from music or it's from crime or whatever, or it was from crime and now it's from music. I get it. They're telling stories of their real life. And also I realize there's a lot of people I grew up with as well, is when you've had nothing your whole life.
Yeah.
Like absolutely nothing. You get to a point where all of a sudden you are making money, whether that's legit or not, you want to show it off. And then not everybody wants to have a nice house, because they're more than happy, wearing everything they're worth around their neck. And I get that. And that's not for me to comment on. I'm just saying I wish that it came with a warning and a sense of education to the people following them that, it's not sustainable to live this lifestyle.
It's not realistic at all.
It's not realistic.
But the one thing I want to drill into with what you just said there is
drill into,
bro. I want to drill into it, but because like what you've just said there is you did some of that yourself when you first went when you first
I never bought watches, and I've never been into like Rolexes and stuff. Like I get given G-Shocks, and I love wearing G-Shocks because I'm quite an active dad, and my kids are constantly fighting, and I'm in and out of swimming pools and mountain biking, so it's nice to wear a G-Shock and not worry about your watch getting smashed.
Yeah.
And also nice being out. Sorry. It's also nice being out and about in London, knowing no one's going to try and stab you for your watch because it's a G-Shock. You know what I mean?
so many people that listen to this in this country will not understand how fucking serious you are. But but it's like if you're going around in a roller,
nearly everybody I know everyone I know has been mugged for their watch or stabbed or both.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about people who aren't affiliated with gangs or people who haven't grown up on estates in trap houses. Most people in England.
It's fucking big. Like, you got to be careful. You can't. Some of the things that people say that I hear people say to people over here, I'm like, fuck. If you go to London and walk down the street and said some of that to some people, like, you could get seriously slapped.
There's parties I go to in Brisbane, and I'm sat on a table and I'm just like, you just look around at what everyone's wearing. And like everyone's got a 10, 20 grand kettle on.
Yeah.
And you're like, if this was London, this hotel or this restaurant would be a hotspot for just kids on mopeds outside waiting which is one of the reasons I left London. I was just like, Did you find you become a target because of your success? I don't know. I mean, like, even if someone was to come into my house now, there's nothing of any value to take. Really, there's nothing in this whole house of any value. There's no expensive jewellery. There's no cash. Well, I've got a laptop. I'm genuine. There's nothing in this house of any. The house is beautiful to look at.
I'm looking around the house now, trying to scope it out.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I love this house, and it's my pride and joy. It's like my castle.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of it. But honestly, in terms of things of being worth of any value, like my wife and my kids. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're not going to leave them behind when you go
out.
Like,
if anyone was to break into this house and so where's the expensive stuff? It's like there's nothing here, man.
Like there's some podcast equipment over there.
Seriously, what is there? Like those knives, my cooking knives and my pride and joy.
Yeah,
they were quite expensive, but probably I got the top of the range NutriBullet. But
yeah, I like that though, because I like what you're preaching here, because you. Obviously, I want to go back into that though, but because you said that you bought Lambos and all that stuff, right?
I kind of bought them out of obsessions and wanting to do it, but also as investments. So I bought a Murcielago, that went up in value, and I bought a Ferrari 355 that went up in value, and I bought a Porsche GT4 Cayman which went up in value. So they were investments.
Yeah.
And they were secure in a 2 floors underground car park, all with trackers on. So there wasn't much risk in them. You know, they weren't parked on the street.
Yeah.
I was actually using the McLaren nearly every day.
As a daily driver?
As a daily, yeah. And that's the one I lost money on. But it was
because you put too many miles on the fucker.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I worked so hard. Like, you know, when I got my first paycheck, like big paycheck, just after a year after Kickstarts came out in 2011. Kickstarts came out in 2010, and that was my song that changed my career basically in terms of fees went up, gigs started sending out, I was moving up festival bills. You know, when people just have, I wasn't a one-hit wonder, I'd already had an album out.
But it's just that one song that charged you up in terms of like what you could earn monetarily.
But I'd paid off some debt, and I was like 27, paid off a load of debt. I was living with my step granddad, who's now passed away. He was like 99, I think, when he passed away, and I was living with him when he was maybe 95, 96 still.
Yeah.
So it was like an old house in Fulham, which had been a council house, and it was like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like a tough life. It was just an old house that you couldn't really bring friends or girls back to because it basically smelt of a 95-year-old man. Rest in peace, you know. Bless his soul.
He's looking down on us now, and he's fucking condemning us both.
No, it was, you know, to be fair to him, he was fit as a fiddle right up until the moment where he deteriorated.
Yeah.
But you know, when you visit old people's houses.
Yeah, they've pissed on the seat, they've pissed on the carpet.
Yeah. Yeah, there's food everywhere and crumbs everywhere. No, but I mean, I'm not saying it in a derogatory way to him. I'm just saying how quickly my life had changed.
Yeah.
In terms of like, my mum and dad lived in Australia. Had moved there. My sister lived in Australia.
Your sister's in Sydney, and your mum and dad are in Gold Coast.
Yeah. And then I kind of like split up with my girlfriend, and then was living with my step granddad, and then everything kind of changed in the space of like a few months with Kickstarts coming out. All of a sudden, I could pay off my debt, and then my accountant was just like, "You're probably going to be able to buy a property next year," and I was like, sick, because I never wanted to sort of rent or get a mortgage, and so I kind of just lived like very, very, you know, the money was coming in, but I wasn't spending any of it.
Yeah, because you just wanted to buy it cash.
Well, also I saw everyone else around me, all my peer group from the time, every other rapper and DJ who, and I'm talking around 2010, 2011. So I'm not going to name names because it's not fair. Just go and look at the charts from 2009, 2010, 2011. And I just kind of realized that they were all buying Rolexes and APs and, you know, Hublots or Mercedes G-Wagons, and it's just to fill a void probably in their life because they've probably not seen that type of cash before. No, and that's why I said before, each their own. I'm not judging them, but I was more from the flip side of it. I was getting free Adidas, so I didn't really have to get clothes. So I was fortunate enough to be getting free Adidas, you know, because my profile was rising. And I was getting a few other freebies here and there. I don't know, I think we get like Levi's jeans or something. I was getting free Nandos. So even though I was starting to get famous, you
got free Nandos.
Well, yeah, I had the Nandos high five black card that, you know, so me and 4 friends could go and eat free Nandos whenever we wanted.
Fucking hell.
But so even though I was starting to get famous and actually making decent money, I was still wearing free clothes and still eating free food, free Nandos.
I'll be eating Nandos every day. Well, I used to eat Nandos every day anyway. But
and then I bought my first property in London on the River Thames in Fulham, and then was only about 3 months after that I then bought myself a car, an Audi RS5.
Yeah, sick.
So I bought a property before I'd ever bought a watch or a car.
Fucking hell.
And that's like, so when people would...
And you bought that property cash, didn't you?
Yeah.
No mortgage, nothing. You just bought it outright in Fulham.
Yeah.
Fucking and any of you that listen that live in Australia, like, you don't know how expensive it is to buy a fucking place in Fulham.
I'm only saying this in a sort of like, hopefully it inspires people way.
100%.
You know me, I'm not a showy guy.
I know you're not flexing, but I just want to. I
mean, like, look at that. That's £150 Gucci bracelet.
Yeah,
but it's like, you know what I mean. It's not.
But it's good. It's good for people to understand.
It's not a 10 grand fucking. Like, what's it called? Diamante, real diamond thing. It's like, because then what else have you got to show for it?
But no, it's good. It's good because obviously you've worked hard to get to where you've got to, but where you've parked your cash and invested it has been so much fucking better for you long term than what most people do with it.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I do agree that there's some people, just want to go around renting, and that's okay. But and also that maybe you don't need to stockpile cash. Like some people think my parents' generation, a lot of people, because they were the babies that came after the Second World War. They all came from nothing, and the country was being rebuilt. It was all about preparing for the future, just in case something happened again, like a war or World War III, and I think the whole country was kind of restructured. And my parents did really well, and they now live on the Gold Coast. They came from nothing. They both came from working class families, and I think the attitude with which they raised me was probably working class. In terms of just no one's going to do you any favours.
Yeah,
just get out there.
You've got to grind it.
You've just got to hustle and never give up and never take no for an answer and never stop dreaming. So that's where that attitude came from. But then I've also realised, there's a lot of people I know who are maybe the generation below me. So I'm 39. I'm talking about people, late 20s or, just turned 30, and they're doing quite well now. And they've got a totally different attitude to me. Whereas a lot of them might not be into the idea of buying properties, but they're investing their money in other ways. They're into everyone I speak to now who's in their 20s. Everyone's into crypto.
Yeah. I'm heavily involved in it, bruv.
Yeah,
I love it, but you gotta. It's like you gotta know what your purpose is and why you're investing in it. Do you know what I mean? If you do 100 hours or 1,000 hours of research into these different asset classes, you have half an idea that whether that asset class suits you and your money.
Yeah.
But you can't. But where a lot of these people, there's two things that people mostly do. They either get money and keep it in the bank, which is a fucking dumb idea, right? Because you're losing your value.
No one's making any money.
No one's making any money on the interest in bank. Or they get all the cash and then they go and waste it on the fucking lifestyle that you've talked about living, which is a lifestyle way beyond your means.
Yeah, and you need to find somewhere in between.
And you need and now whether that's you become an expert at crypto, stocks, property, and this, that, and the other. The good thing about property is that I didn't understand for so many years was the fact of how you can depreciate the properties that you own. So you rent where I obviously rent where I live in Australia, but obviously I own property. And you can depreciate your property against your tax bill. So why wouldn't you own property? Because if you're earning any form of income or you've got a business that generates revenue, you want an asset like property that you can depreciate, which is it's basically like depreciation is like the most magic thing you've ever seen in your life. You take a property that's gone up in value and you can depreciate it against your fucking tax bill. Why wouldn't you own one? How many can I buy? As many as you want. Yeah, welcome to Australia. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Powerful shit, bro.
It's mental. But yeah. I think it's the key thing here is each to their own. I just feel like when you're in a position, I don't really care what anyone really does with their money. It doesn't really concern me. My main thing is just whatever lifestyle you're supposedly projecting, whether it's me talking about the way I live or someone who's the complete opposite with just throwing money at stupid things, material things. So I shouldn't even say stupid. Throwing money at material things. It's important to actually talk about this and bring a lesson with it. So if you had to, obviously a lot of these people aren't going to be on podcasts. There's a lot of influencers and rappers and so on who aren't going to be on podcasts speaking as openly as we are.
Yeah.
But I just feel maybe occasionally the caption there could be a lesson in the caption.
Yeah. But
rather than just the diamond emoji.
but if you had to summarize your lesson in just a fucking paragraph, just summarize your lesson for the people listening that are just trying to be better. They're all listening to this content because they want to be fucking better. They want to learn something. Do you know what I mean? Like what? How would you summarize it?
I don't know. I mean, look, the key thing I always say to people is just generally be a good person, be a nice person, because I think good things happen to good people. I think there's a law of attraction involved in that. I'm not like a super spiritual person, and I'm not like the sort of person who's into the zodiac signs and all that. But I do believe that we are, at the end of the day, in this world, in this huge galaxy, we're just basically atoms colliding off one another. And I think the better energy you put out, the more you get back. And that's the main thing that I've realized over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, because I've changed a lot in the last 4 or 5 years. I've become a lot more relaxed, and I've been a lot more generous and giving and less selfish, and I've been a better listener. And I think a lot of good things have happened as a result of that.
What was the pivotal point when you decided to become a better listener?
I just, I think when my kids were born, or when, one of them was like a few years old, and then the second one was born, and then obviously spending a lot more time at home during coronavirus with my wife, you realise, like, I'm quite a frantic person, or I used to be, because I'm just constantly on a flight here, on a flight there, like quick, straight to the interview, straight to the music video shoot, on stage, off stage, have a 4-hour nap, straight to this, on the flight home, blah, blah. And then I was bringing that same energy home.
Yeah. So you always felt like you were rushing around the kids and rushing around your wife rather than being with them.
Yeah, being present in the moment. I was just rushing them everywhere and like shouting, unnecessarily herding them into cars and then you drop them off at school or kindy for the day, and then they've carried that energy with them for the whole day.
And they're now apprehensive because you've instilled that into them.
Yeah, and then that affects their behaviour as well. So, like if there'd occasionally be mornings where I was rushing around like a nutter in the morning because I've realised that I've got an interview that I've forgotten about at 9 a.m. So I've got to all of a sudden drop both the kids off by 8:50 so I can come home and be prepared for my 9 a.m. interview. But instead of actually just like going up and whispering to them, just saying, Daddy's got some work to do today. Can you just go and brush your teeth and get in the car? I was like, get in the car. What are you doing? We're going to be like... And then you realise that he's then going into his classroom and the first thing he's going to do
is... He's apprehensive.
And then he's passing on that energy to the rest of the class. And then we get an email from the end of the day saying, Evander has, done such and such at school today. He's been throwing rocks at cars driving past us. And you're like...
And he's just doing that to get attention because he didn't get attention from you.
And then I'm like, wow, I was probably the reason for that this morning.
Yeah.
So it's just these little realizations.
And I think all of our, like, obviously you've had good parenting, I've had good parenting, but we can still pick up a lot of things from our childhood and take it right the way through our lives. And it's important that you've identified that because obviously...
Well, also, I really hope, I'm feeling now that my parents are identifying a few things off me.
Yeah.
And or the way that I know that they pass on a lot of advice, like in terms of, I don't like the way you did that or that's wrong. But they also occasionally, you can tell they see things. My parents are so proud, or have so much pride that they'd probably never turn around and go, I really like what you did there. I've learned something from that. But you can tell that maybe the next time you see them, they've learned something from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think the generation before us, they're a lot more stubborn.
Yeah,
because they had to be.
I know you don't go down the woo-woo route with energy, but I do believe personally that when you heal your own energy and the energy that you put out, it heals all the family start to change around you and the people around you start to change massively.
Yeah, because I come from a family where like my mum and dad, like the amount of love and care they gave to me, off the charts. And the amount of time and energy my dad invested into not only working like all day and every day he could to provide for the family, but then spending all weekend doing DIY on the house, himself, but then always finding time to play with me and my sister and give us so much attention. And that helped us, our creativity and our mindset as well. But they're also like, because of the upbringing they've had, of such a tough upbringing, they've never really been ones to apologise for anything, in terms of like they don't carry much guilt with them, in terms of like we've had to face adversity and tough times, and we've still done all right for ourselves. So we're inherently good people, and we can't learn from anything. But I find that there's a lot of people you meet in life like that. I've worked with people like that, where the best thing you can do is just kill them with kindness. And just like overflow them with love, and it's just like eventually after a while people start to open up, don't they? They start to open up or relax into something, or you might not get a text or an email apologising, but just the next time you see someone, you might get a hug off them, which tells you everything you needed to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you have a falling out with someone, and some people like to have it out on the phone or FaceTime or send texts or send emails back and forth. There's also a lot of people that I realised, like I'm an open book. I can make a mistake and instantly know I've made a mistake and then apologise and get to the bottom of it and sort it out. My wife and I are like that. Erin and I are like that. We're like, if we fall out about something or disagree about something...
You never go to bed on it.
Never go to bed. We will go to bed best friends, so we will wake up and start from scratch. Whereas I know a lot of people, whether it's my parents or my sister or like some friends back home in the UK, like cousins of mine, they store that bad energy and they want to punish you for maybe a few days, a week,
But they're
a month.
punishing themselves.
I know, but you can only way you can do that is to make them realise it. But then, you know, it's like I know I'm not perfect, but I think there's a lot of people you meet in life, and they could be in your own family, they could be friends, whatever, and they will never. They think that they're perfect as well, or they think they haven't done anything wrong, and that's just because they just haven't really. They're not once you're completely at ease with yourself, you accept all your thoughts, and then you're willing to change.
Yeah,
because you're learning off other people, like for good energy,
and that all comes from looking inward.
And then a lot of people don't look inward. They're just like they're not like why is it that they're like that, and why is it like that, and just like, well, work out why you're the way you are first, and then you'll realise why they are the way are.
When you realise the outside world is only generated from how you turn up to the world, when you realise that, in that moment, your life changes.
But I had to make a lot of changes in the last few years, definitely. And but I'm just the most relaxed I've ever been now, and I'm just like I don't shout as much, I don't rush as much. You know, I'm probably a better listener. I've probably let you talk more on this podcast than I've done on any podcast. I mean, like, in terms of usually I just talk over people.
But the thing is, right, when you were in the UK, I was watching your Instagram story, and I knew that there'd been some big shifts in your life over the last few years, because when you was in the UK, you were doing a story one time, and you almost looked like emotional, because I think in the moment that you did this one story, you was on like walking down some road, and you're just like thanking the people, because like you couldn't believe the response that you'd got at the festivals you'd been to, and I could see how much that fucking meant to you. Yeah, because when you've been at the top of the game like you have for such a long time, but now you've done the inside work, and you've looked inward, and you kind of found more appreciation in what you do and how you're turning up. That comes out in, and I just saw it all, mate. I saw the appreciation that you've got for people turning out, like you're in disbelief that people still flooded your gigs the way that they did.
Genuinely, yeah. Like, I couldn't believe at Creamfields, like, it's 5 stages, and you've got Jamie Jones, Chemical Brothers, Eric Prydz, and Andy C. So you've got Eric Prydz, one of the biggest sort of like, you know, prog house festival, you know, dance acts of all time. You've got Chemical Brothers, one of the biggest dance acts of all time. You've got Jamie Jones, the biggest house or deep house DJ in the world. Certainly like one of the most sort of biggest cult followings.
Yeah.
And then Andy C, easily the most talented drum and bass DJ in the world. You know, debatable whether he's the biggest. There's like 3 or 4 other big names maybe in that. But he's easily the most technically gifted drum and bass DJ in the world. And then me. So I was just like, couldn't believe that my tent was packed. Even though like my manager and everyone else around me was just like, but mate, just, you've got a legacy, you've got all these things. But because I hadn't been to the UK for 18 months, you just sort of start doubting yourself a bit.
Yeah. For me, on the outside looking in, to see, obviously we'd spoken like on Instagram and stuff, but to see that self-doubt, I thought, fuck. I obviously always knew you were just a normal human being like everyone else who's just achieved a vast amount of stuff. But it even made me think, fucking hell, like, here's a man that's achieved so much in the game, but even he has self-doubt times. Even he thinks to himself, fuck, you mentioned on the story one time that you thought no one was going to be in the fucking tent.
Well, I was just only based on those aforementioned acts, how many other people, you know, there's a lot of, to put it this way, you go into Creamfields for the weekend, there's like 90,000 people there. There's a lot of choice.
Yeah.
And then you think, if all these people, you know, everyone who's bought a ticket for this festival, everyone on the lineup's a DJ except for me. There was 120 acts, all DJs except for me. So you're kind of like, maybe people just don't want to see someone on a microphone shouting and singing. They just want to see DJ acts. So that's why I had my doubts. But
that tent was popping, bro.
It was, but I think it was also that I'd left my wife and kids this was like week 1 of 8, so it was 6 weeks plus 2 weeks quarantine. So it was kind of like the rest of this trip could live or die by this gig, you know? Because I'm like, if we don't kick this tour off with a bang, how's my energy and my mentality going to be for the rest of the trip? You know what I mean? It's like you go to the Olympics, you've got to win Heat 1.
Yeah.
You have to win Heat 1. And then you can't even think about the final until you win Heat 1. And that was like Heat 1. And it was like,
and it's a big
wow,
heat.
Set a new world record. You know, that's how it felt afterwards.
Yeah, brilliant, man.
But yeah.
How hard was it being? Because I think that was the longest time you'd been away from the wife and kids, isn't it?
So the longest I've ever done was 10 weeks, and that was when my wife was pregnant with our first. So we went on holiday to the Maldives, or as Australians call it, the Maldives. We need to lighten this up a bit, this chat. Yeah. We just got back from the Maldives, me and Tony. It was great. we went swimming with sharks. So Erin was like 6 months pregnant.
Yeah.
And I had to go back to the UK to shoot a film. It was like a small part I had in an independent film. Won't be acting again.
What was the film so people can see it? We'll link it in the show notes. Go on, what was the film? Were you shit?
No, I wasn't shit. I just was bored after like 2 or 3 days. I was just like, how do actors sit and wait around all day, waiting for the weather to change?
How many words do you have? 4?
I was probably the 4th name on the script, which means you're the 4th
Fourth amount of words.
Yeah. I probably was in 7 or 8 scenes.
Was it a gang film?
No, it wasn't a gang film. I'm not going to do a gangster film. It was I was playing a bit of a geese, but it was like a
bit of a geezer.
It was like a rom-com sort of.
Go on, son.
It's called Between Two Worlds.
Yeah.
The mad thing is all 3 lead actors in it who were unknown at the time have all gone on to do really well. They've all got parts in Hollywood's productions.
You want to name them?
No, you just see the film. There's a guy called Lucien Leviscount or Leviscount, and then it was just everyone's done really well. Like they've all got parts in big like HBO productions.
But that was the first time you thought, you know what, I'm not a fucking actor.
Yeah, I mean, I did 2 other little films afterwards, but let's not go into that. Anyway, so I went back to the UK to shoot a film and then do like 15 gigs.
Yeah.
And Erin was pregnant with our first, and she was in Brisbane living with her mum and dad, and we didn't see each other for 10 weeks. And then I got back to Australia, say like December the 10th.
Yeah.
Went to Byron Bay, went to her brother's wedding, and then our first was born like 2 days later. So it was like Christmas, wedding, boom. And then Evander was born. And then the longest I'd done away since then was maybe 4 weeks. So in 2019, I would do 2 weeks in UK, come back here for 2 weeks, go back to the UK for a month, come back here for 3 weeks, go back to the UK for 3 weeks. So I flew back and forth 11 times.
Fuck off.
And that was just so
horrendous.
Just because I couldn't deal with not seeing the kids for more than say 3 or 4 weeks. And Erin couldn't really deal with raising the kids by herself for more than 2 or 3 weeks. And we've never had a nanny. We had a nanny in London who worked 1 day a week.
Right.
When their kids were, like 4 and 1. But we don't have a cleaner. We don't have a chef. Don't have personal trainers. Don't have nannies. Like we have babysitters.
What's your reasoning behind that?
Well, I think it's just because we enjoy the challenge. Like, put it this way: if I was ever on tour in the UK and Erin had, a massive job come up or a series of jobs, if my mum and dad couldn't help or Erin's mum and dad couldn't help, we'd have to get a nanny. But I'm just saying that, like, there's a lot of people, like, occasionally there's comments on her Instagram, like, I'd look like you too if I had a nanny and a cleaner and everything. They're just assuming that you've got, they're like, how can 2 people possibly have a house which they see on Instagram and keep it all clean and tidy and kept and have 2 kids and show them a fun time, constantly taking them to parks and swimming and so on. And then Erin can possibly be in that good shape. It's almost like this weird jealousy where it's just like, people putting it off in their heads. They're like, I could look like Erin McNaught too, but I have a 9 to 5 and I don't have a nanny like they do. Or I come home from work and I have to cook for my kids and clean the house. It's like,
so
we come home from work and we cook and we clean the house.
Yeah.
And it's, it's a bit annoying when people do that. People can, every day, I guarantee every human being has an hour in their lunch break or that when they come home from work and they're absolutely knackered and they still find time to sit and watch Netflix for an hour or 2.
100% they do.
With their partner. Everyone does. I don't care who you are. I know there's some, look, don't get me wrong, there's certain people who, back in the UK, there's people in my family who are up at 6 and make the packed lunches and drop their kids and they're straight to work and they get the half an hour lunch break and then they get home and then some of them have other jobs that they do. So I do get there's certain people who, like, okay, I can't get in shape. Because, But then, mate, my dad, that's why he's so inspirational. Like, when I was born, he was driving from London to Birmingham every day, there and back, 2 hours each way.
Yeah.
Because it's the only place he could get a job, because the UK was just...
It was just fucked at the time.
Yeah, so I'm talking like 1982.
Yeah, you're talking the 80s, yeah.
Right. So you took whatever job you could. My mum was at home, obviously pregnant with me, and my dad was also training for the marathon at the time. So I know he was a bit extreme, and I think he got alopecia and lost all his hair as a result of probably the stress involved in,
the training, the driving.
Well, also the training, the driving, my mum being pregnant, him working, and his dad was dying at the time as well. His dad was very sick. Oh. But I think maybe the running and the marathon training was a distraction from the work and his dad dying. I guess what I'm saying is, like, when people feel like they make excuses that there's no time to train or exercise, I think it's bullshit.
Yeah, 100%. Because you
can do everyone can do 15 minutes a day.
Everyone. This is what I'm going to say. Everyone can do 15, 20 minutes a day where they put their mind and their body before anyone else.
Yeah, everyone has to.
And you have to fucking do that.
I know people with 4 kids who are single parents and they find time to train. And the reason I'm saying this is, like, to your listeners and your viewers, it's so important, as you would have discussed with other people on your show, is like, health is wealth. And if you don't devote that time to it, like, people go mad. Like, I reckon just 15 minutes intense training a day can pretty much save your day in terms of, like,
you'll sleep better, bro.
You sleep better. You're less stressed. You're happier.
Sex.
You're healthier. You'll have more sex.
You'll have 100% more sex than you normally do, because obviously you're fitter. You got more testosterone if you're a man. You know, you got more things flowing if you're a woman. It's an absolute game changer, and it's something it's like you cannot afford not to make that time for yourself. It's such a simple fucking process, isn't it? And it's like, even like, do you read or anything?
I read sort of like self-help sort of stuff.
Yeah, like what kind of books are you reading at the moment?
Well, do you know that book Winning?
Winning by...
Oh, God, it's up there somewhere. Yeah, it's up there. By Tim S. Grover.
Oh, yeah. That is... Tim S. Grover's a big author, but I've never read one of his books, but I have got him on the list to read that.
I read that twice whilst I was in the UK.
Yeah.
Just because, I'm not usually into books like that.
And what did you pull out of that?
Well, it was kind of like, there's a lot of the mindset stuff in there where I already think the same. But there's also, I think there's a lot of people who, they think winning is just them.
Yeah, it's not. It's a team.
It's a team thing. It's about, the main thing I would take from that is, like, how can I also instill this in other people? How can I help my wife win? How can I help my kids win? How can I... This
is fucking so key, bro, because this is what a lot of people, I think, in my life have missed. Every interaction that you have with people should be a win-win. No one should lose from your interaction with them.
No.
Like, you should win, I should win. Yeah. Everyone should win. When you're having a conversation with your wife, you want to obviously win what you want to win, and she's got to win too. Otherwise, one of you is leaving lesser than they came into the conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like that. That's the whole thing. Like, that's why.
And something I wouldn't have thought like that 3 or 4 years ago. Like, and even though for the last 10 years my mentality has been hustle, win, success, earn money, hustle, win. I think I would just hope that I would just meet people and I would rub off on them.
Yeah.
But then I never really spent enough time asking about them and, like, trying to get something from them. And, like, I'm going to sit here and just throw loads of advice at you. But I'm like, you tell me what you've done and how have you done, and what would you, and then there's every chance I can learn from that.
Well, there's people out there giving advice, bro, right? They're giving advice, but they don't first seek to find out what the issue is within that person before they give the advice. So they give advice to someone that might not be applicable to them because they've never asked them a question about themselves.
Exactly.
And it's like fuck, just ask better questions, get better answers.
It's like when people come up to you and they're just like, how can I be like you? And I'm just like, but what aspects of it is it that you think that you want to be like me? Because there's probably a lot of things you think I am which I'm not. And there's also a lot of things that you don't realise you already are as well.
Yeah. So
you're right. Ask better questions. So, like, one of the things that I find very powerful in terms of what you do as a man, right, is how you are with your children and how you are with your wife. Like, I can see
from the outside looking in, like you have unconditional love for your wife, you have unconditional love for your children, you take time with the children. And I'm like, fuck, if I'm a man at 33 years old who hasn't got any kids, who hasn't got a missus, but if I was going to look as a role model of how I act when I have them, that's what I'd look at.
That'd be amazing, man.
Do you know what I mean? Because I look at it every day, and that's the most powerful thing that you've shown me, is because until that point I'd only seen like that level of care from like how my mum and dad had looked like after my sister and looked after the grandkids and stuff like that. I'd never seen it at our age group, because in our age group, bro, a lot of people are giving kids iPads and giving people distractions
like I had to give my eldest iPad this morning because I let Erin have a lion this morning. We take it. You may have a lion today.
As he announces it on the fucking house audio system. Attention.
We kind of take it in turns most days, you know, like because the kids are up at like 5:45.
She's heard her name. She's creeping up.
We take it in turns to get up with the kids because like they're up at like 5:30.
Yeah.
But for every sort of half an hour that Evander spends on his iPad, he'll then occasionally know I'll just look over him instead of like go, Vanny, give Enyo his go on iPad. I'll just look over and I'll go, Vanny, like because I've discussed with him half an hour earlier. Yeah. So this is what I was just saying like earlier about having changed a lot and relaxed a lot. Is me a year ago would have gone, Van, give Enyo a go on the iPad now. Yeah. Whereas as Van's on his iPad at like say 6 a.m, I go over and I whisper to him and I go, mate, I'm going to look over at you in half an hour and wink. I just want you to give the iPad to Enyo, because then Enyo will think that's teaching Enyo to share as well. Yeah. And then I don't have to shout at you.
Yeah. And not only that, you've primed him, haven't you?
And then I sent him, but before we go to school, we're going to play Top Trumps, which is therefore a physical card game, you know. So it's helping his reading and his numbers and so on. And that also means less iPad time, and that's more like one-on-one interaction. But he knows that whilst I'm making the packed lunch, he's okay on his iPad, or he can go and play in his room and build stuff or whatever. Yeah. But also, babe, do you want to come and wave quickly? Because you're going to be on the show soon. Come on, come and wave to camera.
We'll get you on YouTube. We'll get you on YouTube.
Come in the back. Come by the cat tower.
This is the beautiful wife that he's been telling you so much about on the podcast.
Have you been listening to any of this?
Yeah.
No. Quite a lot of nice things.
This is why I like to keep these conversations casual.
You smell amazing.
Yeah. Wow. See, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, this is how relationships should be. You know, just nice and fucking relaxed and chilled.
One leaning over the back by the cat tower.
Yeah, but that's why your poster's on the wall in the lounge as well. Like.
Well, no, it was just like too big to put anywhere.
Yeah. She didn't always smell this good. When she came back from SAS, she stunk. Yeah. But now she smells nice.
12 days with no shower.
Yeah.
12 days with no shower, and you didn't even shower before you came back in the house.
No, she did.
Oh my God!
No, she was just so battered and bruised. She looked like she stank.
Yeah,
the first shower after 12 days was like I had to shower twice. It was like
crazy.
But you will be on a future episode, correct?
Yeah.
Hopefully, all the things that I'm saying about you can reciprocate.
Yeah.
Maybe you should never listen to my one and then just see.
Imagine if she just completely tortures you on the podcast, bro. Like.
Never.
I'll see you soon.
Honestly, that
text me.
Honestly,
DM me.
This is why I don't edit these podcasts, because I like the raw flow of this stuff. You know what I mean? What other podcast? You're not going to get that. You're not going to get it on any other podcast. They're going to cut that out.
That's the key thing to relationship is raw flow.
Yeah, raw flow.
We ended up with 2 kids thanks to raw flow. Jesus.
Wait, bro, you nearly ended up with a 3rd kid the other day after that sunbed fucking debacle. Do you know what I mean, bro?
Yeah. Honestly, there was quite a few comments about.
I want to have a word with you about that, right? You pinned 2 comments on that post, right? I looked at the 2 comments that you pinned, and my comment had the most likes, bro.
Yeah, I know.
So, but you couldn't pin that, could you? Because you thought you don't want to jinx yourself.
Yeah, I know. Also, the kids are in the house. There's no chance of making a 3rd kid when the kids are in the house. So. But we don't want a 3rd kid.
Nah, you completely out. You completely out.
We're 40 next year, Mum.
Yeah.
Like we can finally we're at the stage where we can go like skiing to Queenstown in New Zealand with, you know, a 7 and a 4-year-old.
So middle class, bro.
What do you mean? Skiing? Nah, man. Skiing's amazing. Skiing's proper.
You've settled into Australia too fast, because that is like proper. Yeah, mate. We're going to Queenstown.
We're going to Queenstown. We're going skiing.
We're going to get Queenstown, mate.
I don't know if there's really a class system in Australia, is there?
Nah.
There's definitely a disparity between the rich and the poor, but there's not really
It doesn't matter what class you're in, you still say the word cunt.
Yeah, it's so true.
And in England, that just doesn't happen.
I remember watching Billy Connolly stand-up comedy. He's like probably my all-time favourite.
He's fucking hilarious.
And he's obsessed with Australia. You know, he's done so many shows where he goes on Australia, and he always talks about his favourite thing about Australia is just the lack of class system. That you'll be in a pub, and there could be a guy there who's a multi-millionaire engineer, a guy who plays rugby league, a guy who's an electrician, and a guy who's a school teacher.
And they're all just mates.
And all of them are all just mates, and no one cares what the other one earns, and there's no jealousy, and they all just buy each other their around, and one leaves in a motorbike, and one leaves in a ute, and one leaves, you know, on the bus, and one leaves in a Mercedes, and that exists. And I think, obviously, that can exist in the UK, and there are examples of that, but generally speaking, there's still this class divide of, you know, the privately educated public schools and
100%, and that's I believe everyone from England should come and have a look at Australia to see a difference.
See how shit goes on.
Yeah, see, because it is different gravy here. It is different gravy, mate. Like you got to admit, like we've won the fucking lottery. Mate.
My main issue with Australia is, and you probably feel that it's more in Brisbane, and I love the cat sniffing around your bag.
Yeah.
He didn't bring any treats for the cat. So he bought me some champagne, and he bought Erin a candle. No, he's getting in your bag. He's getting in your bag. What have you got in there? Have you got catnip?
I don't know, mate. He's on it.
My main issue with Australia, and I kind of like my only issues, is like the lack of diversity. But that's not their fault. They're so far away from the rest of the world. Like I think Australia's been pretty good with immigrants and immigration over the years. I mean, they could probably do a bit better with asylum seekers, like, you know, in terms of the way they treat them. And that fucking fly wants to go. But, you know, so I think Melbourne and Sydney are a lot more diverse than the Gold Coast and Brisbane. You know, my kids' school's nearly all probably like 80% white with a few Asians and mixed race kids. And that's not like, that upsets me. It's just completely different to what I was used to growing up in South London. But then because of that, you don't get the same, because like undoubtedly I've found in the UK, like growing up with so many black people, is like the coolest fashion, the coolest music, the coolest chat. A lot of the coolest things come from black music and black culture, and that there isn't really that here. So that's one of the main things that I miss, because of like jungle, drum and bass, dubstep, house.
It's all that black flavour, isn't it?
It's all that black flavour, and that's one of the main things I miss over here, is because it just doesn't really exist.
When you fly,
but that's the only thing I miss. Everything else about Australia, I think, is better.
Everything else about Australia is better, but like in terms of like what you're saying about the culture and the culture of people, like if you put me and my friends all lined up against the wall, we're like a Dulux colour chart, bruv. We go from fucking paler than pale to like the darkest black you could ever see. Like,
in
England?
Okay, yeah. So
it's like, and that's just like, you know, you think nothing of having friends from different cultures in the UK, because we're just all integrated. And when I came here, bro.
But also, I think in the UK, you are so aware of skin color as well. Like it's two different ways. You are, as in everyone in your friendship group, you're not ever constantly looking at them as in terms of their skin colour, like people maybe would in Australia. Like you'd be at a house party with 40 people and there's one black person there. And it's not like he's necessarily treated differently, but he does feel. Some of my mates who've told me he feel a bit more isolated, and that other people are a bit awkward around him. And I felt that here. But I do think we also see skin colour in a way in the UK, in terms of we know how tough it can be for someone growing up with that skin, and like you know, like growing up and you're like, as a kid, I'm like, I don't really see skin colour, because it's, you know, I'm at a school where everyone's just getting on. But then as you grow older, and then you realise, wow, he's only been arrested or stopped by the police 20 times this year because of his skin colour. He's only not got that job because of his skin colour. You know, he's the one receiving abuse from shouting from across the side of the park for his skin colour. You start to see skin colour more and just be a bit more aware of it. So whereas when you're like 8 or 9 years old, you don't really aware of it. But then when you're 15, 16 years old, it starts becoming a thing. It's like, no, I do recognise it, and it's good to be aware of it. And I think Australia is so confused and ignorant about it because there isn't the diversity.
Yeah, but
they just don't know. They don't even know how to talk about certain issues to do with race and skin colour because they're scared to say the wrong thing, and they also just don't know how to go and talk to black people. Some of them, they're just like, you know, they're really awkward around them, and it's not necessarily their fault.
It's not their fault because this is why this is why it's so important for people in Australia to travel to these diverse places,
exactly,
and see it like America.
The Aussies that I get on with the best are the ones who've lived in London, LA, or New York for
100%, bro, because their banter is 10 times better.
They're sharper, they're more worldly. But I also say to them, I'm just like, he's a human being. Go over and ask him his name.
Yeah.
You know, go ask him what, you know, like, go on and say to him, what is your heritage?
Yeah.
You know, when did your parents come here? Why did they come here? Don't be afraid to ask these questions. Go and fucking educate yourself on it. You know what I mean? And then they're almost like, oh, can you do that? Yeah, of course you can. You're happy to tell me about your Italian heritage. Yeah. Go and ask him about his Sudanese heritage, and like, you might find out that he was actually a child soldier and he came here as a refugee, and then you can ask all about the history of that, and then like, oh, I didn't realise you could do that. Well, because he's black. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like,
you met a geezer in the gym who wrote a book about his.
Daniel Ayek. He was a child refugee.
Yeah. We'll sort out the mic. There we are.
Gary. Yeah, he was a child soldier and came to Australia as a refugee.
Yes.
But then like 10 years later or so, and he met in Brisbane the same guy who was like his oppressor. You know, so
wow.
You know, you got to read the book, but you know, say he was like 12, 13.
So the guy that forced him to.
Well, no. So you'd have sort of like the adults, soldiers, and then under them there'd be sort of like 16, 17-year-olds cracking the whip on all the 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
So then this guy who was like a few years older than him, who would beat him and bully him and like belittle him every day, had also escaped Sudan as a refugee and was also living in Brisbane, and then so he's faced with him like years later.
And what kind of happened in that situation?
I mean, like, they actually, you know, the other guy was pretty scared and thinking, what, you know, now we're all grown men, is he going to retaliate? And they actually sat down and had face-to-face chats and sort of talked through all the differences and problems, and they've done radio shows together, and you know, it's part of his book. That's
powerful. That's some powerful shit, because to come from that environment is fucking hard enough to.
And he's the sweetest, happiest guy. Not saying that he shouldn't be. You just kind of think, you kind of don't know what anyone should be like after they've been through stuff like that. But then I'm sure you've met a lot of reformed people where they're just, you know, they've had the craziest lifestyles, then they've gone to prison or whatever, and then come out completely reborn.
So how about this for a story, right? And your podcast will be after this, so I can say it now. So I had a guy on the podcast called Harley, right? And he went to prison, and then he came out of prison, he made a load of money, done real well in business. And I asked him the other day, what was the pivotal point that changed your life for you to go one way to the other? Because obviously your life was fucking completely one way. How did you fucking turn it around? He goes, I got a call one day off my ex-missus, right? And he was working and trying to stay straight to save money to buy his little boy a Christmas present. She said, I've been involved in a car crash and our son's died. And that is the point. At that point, right, he changed. That was the point when he could have like let that end his life. He changed his whole fucking life predicated on that conversation, bro. Mad. And when he told me this story, and you'll have to listen to it on the podcast, bro, but when he told me this story, bruv, I felt every fucking hair on my body.
Well, mate, I'm imagining it now, because obviously I've got kids as well.
Yeah, it's just like this just goes to show you, just be kind to everyone, and you don't know what anyone's going through, man. Like, just
what I love. I think it's a place where we should leave this now.
Yeah,
be nice to everyone. Well, because I've got to shoot anyway.
Yeah, you got to shoot, but
I do. Yeah, I think. But the other one is be nice to everyone, and just try random acts of kindness. Just, you know, randomly treat someone to a coffee one day. You know, the main thing I was doing in London is because, you know, in Australia, most people just walk past you strangers like, how's it going, mate? Have a good day.
Yeah.
Everyone, you know, you don't know everyone's your best friend, but everyone generally just says hello to everyone. In London, everyone kind of just like
head down,
looks at the floor.
Yeah.
I make a point of in London just sort of like going past, apart from taxi drivers who are just non-stop, I'm just like smiling and chatting with everyone. And like, you know, you go in McDonald's and there'll be like 15 firefighters in McDonald's, and they're engines parked outside, and they've literally just come from a fight, and they're just all starving, and it was like midnight. And then 3 of them recognised me, and then we had a group photo, and then I bought them all McDonald's. I'm just saying, like, I love doing things like that because they're so easy to do. I'm not saying, like, obviously, that it ends up in the papers the next day, and like everyone's like, "Oh, that's good PR." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not about good PR. It's just like
it's just about being a kind human." But then
it means that other people will see that and then do the same. Not everyone can afford to go in and buy like 25 fighters McDonald's. It's not about that. It's just like it's not a lot of money, to be fair. It's like probably about 70 quid because McDonald's. But you know, just treating random people to coffee and. You know,
yeah,
I like the amount of times you're at your places. I just go, let me get that for them, and they're like, "What? Why?" I was just like, because you might do the same for someone else tomorrow, and then we're just continuing this good energy.
And this is a good place to leave it because what I want to say in regards to what you just said is simply this, right? You know, if you go into the petrol, if you are in a position where you can afford to give. Yeah, simple as that. Just give because
and if you're not in a position where you can't afford, then just smile and hug and
give good energy.
Give good energy.
Give good energy if you can't give money, but give something.
Because it's changed my life, mate. It's honestly changed my life, and it's probably in the last few years saved my marriage, and it's probably made me and my kids closer than ever before.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
that is fucking beautiful, bro, mate. Right, guys, that is example. That is Elliot. And guys, I'll put links to all the new albums, the SoundClouds, all that stuff, so you can do all that in the bio. Mate, thank you so much for your time, mate.
My pleasure.
And guys, like, do me a fucking solid favour, right? Drop us both a message. Let us know what you got out of this. What
DM me. Feel free to DM me because I do check my DM requests every day.
Yeah, DM us. Let us know how you feel about this podcast. Hopefully, we drop some vibes. We've got Erin coming on. The wife, we've got the wife coming on in the future as well, and we've got some other bangers dropping as well. Stay tuned, like and share, subscribe, do all that razzmatazz, and much fucking love.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Frankie Lee Podcast.